live on a Friday. It's the 18th of April. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens lunch hour live stream. So good to be back with you. We're closing down the final week, Sarah, before the 2025 NFL draft, and you and I are busy at work behind the scenes getting ready for our annual mega cast. It's a marathon live stream draft party, which is coming up on Thursday, April 24th. Really looking forward to all that and more. I am not in Baltimore right now, as you can see. I just got to Golden, Colorado last night to visit my sister and her fiance for the long Easter weekend. So looking forward to everything she has planned and her itinerary, and looking forward to the show with you, partner. How are you?
I'm doing well. Sorry that you seem to not have like the perfect flight schedule. It seems like that's pretty normal these days, but happy you could be out there with Tori. My kids are off school today, so it's a different vibe over here in the Ellison household on a Friday afternoon, but looking forward to the Easter weekend.
Yeah. Hour and a half on the tarmac in Baltimore because of winds that were apparently happening and developing in the Denver area. And then once I got to Denver International, not only was it a zoo, but the baggage was basically lost. All planes baggage, my entire plane ride's baggage was lost for like over an hour. And then I just so happened to be looking over at the opposite carousel of what they told us. Oh, and there was my suitcase, so I ran over and grabbed it. And Tori and Francisco were waiting outside for probably a lot longer than they had planned. Anyway, what we have coming up for you over the course of this next hour is how Eric DaCosta has struck again, Sarah, and it has to do with something that's a projection, but we will talk about compensatory picks and the formula that goes into place, and the former Ravens corner who was brought in at the deadline this past season, who's reuniting with his former team in Buffalo. We'll also do a nice little exercise kind of gauging smokescreen or sincere, taking a look at the Ravens messaging when it comes to specific position groups, specific storylines this offseason, and how our gut feelings sort of look like when it comes to those topics. Daniel Jeremiah, as we discussed with Emery Hunt yesterday, has pushed for a need for speed in Baltimore with this Maxwell Hairston player. We're going to take a look at that and also hear from DJ. We never played his clip on why he's pushing for this player at this position. We'll do that in just a bit. And you brought in, what's up with this? The Ravens players clowning Pittsburgh. I know there's got to be an appetite for whenever that happens, but I don't really know anything about this yet, so that'll be news to me.
It was just a random comment on a Yahoo Sportscast about, the Ravens when they demolished the Steelers and what was going on in the locker room. So just kind of came out randomly recently. So we'll come and take a listen to it during Quick Hits.
Cool. Look forward to it. But we'll begin here, and that is Tre White. He's going back to Buffalo. He spent several years there early on in his career. He has agreed 2 terms with the Bills. It's a 1-year deal with a max value up to $6.8 million, according to Tom Pelissero here, Sarah. And so, as Nick Cordy kind of notes, we'll see what the APY is here for compensatory pick purposes, but there could still be a chance that the Ravens end up maxing out on 4 2026 compensatory picks in the end. And obviously there's still a domino that may or may not fall when it comes to Deontay Johnson's future. Expectations are, I don't know, somewhere in the middle, probably below. I don't know. Yeah,
very low.
You would think, but I guess the reason why I left it out for interpretation is because you just never know with this league and at that position of wide receiver, especially when you think about the caliber of player when he's healthy, when he's available, when he's present. But anyway, this is a big deal.
It's low in terms of comp pick because the comp pick deadline is
after
the draft. Yes, that's
you were referring to quality. I was referring to chances. Yep, I got you.
Yeah.
But point is that we've discussed it a lot in the last few weeks. The formula itself, the compensatory pick formula, and how the Ravens have cashed in. They also haven't. We went through that exercise of sort of looking at who they've brought in through this formula over the years, and of course there have been hits, there have been misses, but the more chances you get, you'd think when it comes to drafting and scouting in Baltimore, the better they're going to have.
Yeah, so let me back up just for a second before we talk about the comp picks on Tre White. I liked him. I liked him a lot. I thought he, for, the role that they asked him to play, which is obviously not, your starting cornerback, but there were times when it was like, let's move on from Brandon Stephens and put in Tre White because Brandon Stephens is being targeted. And so there's a few times that he was targeted and he stood up well. So I thought overall, the role that the Ravens asked him to play while in Baltimore, I thought he played solidly. The sad part is, Bobby, is I think that his most memorable play will not be a good play. I feel like it was that phantom PI call against the team he now has re-signed with, which is Buffalo in the playoffs. And so, but yeah, I liked him. I thought he was a solid pickup, and he's going back to the team where he had 2 Pro Bowls with, and so I'm sure he's happy to return to that team. Now, as far as the compensatory pick formula goes, this is just another situation where Eric DeCosta strikes again. And there are some people that will hate to hear this news, or some that's indifferent, and others that celebrate it. Those that are so tired and they think the EDC is cheap and he's always trying to go get these compensatory picks, they'll be like, yeah, he strikes again, and I hate it. Or others that may have listened to our program, like you said, where we reviewed all the hits or somewhat hits the Ravens have made with comp picks, the most recent being Isaiah Likely. So other people be like, okay, this is celebratory for us. And so Ken McCusick is one of those people. He talks about the exchange that basically EDC made here with Tre White leaving and signing Chido Awuzie. So Ken tweeted, this makes the Awuzie signing all the more understandable. White played well in 2024, and I think the Ravens would have liked to re-sign him. But if that was the case, it became right player, right price with Awuzie, making the veteran minimum from the Ravens. But he was okay with that because he's still cashing in on what the Titans paid him with his multi-year deal. And so he's making still $7.5 million from the Titans at another $1 million plus from the Ravens. And now he's in that, $8 to $9 million range where he's like, cool, I'll go with a playoff and Super Bowl contender while I'm making 8.5, but I can come to the Ravens for cheap. Whereas White, when he goes to the Bills, he's making up to 6.8 million, depending on how he plays. And so the Ravens didn't have to compete with that. They didn't have to go for 6.8. Would I say that Tre'Davious White is head and shoulders better than Cheeto? I don't think so, but Cheeto also obviously has to be healthy. And so they're basically making the same, but the Titans are footing the bill for Baltimore. So sad to see Trey go. I think he played well. I'm sure he's happy to go back to the Bills, but this is once again Eric DeCosta doing all those small things that are underrated, that also might be underappreciated.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you just said. And you brought me back to some of the inconsistencies that were obviously on the table with Brandon Stevens. And I think at the time of the deadline, they brought Trey in and he kind of gave him a spark a little bit. I just found this stat from his debut, which just so happened to come against the Steelers in November. And look what he did. I remember some great single coverage moments with Pickens, right? This play right here where he was up. I think this ended up in a pass breakup, but the coverage grade that he walked out of that debut, and to debut against the Steelers is always going to be challenging. When you debut against the Steelers as a Raven, that's going to be even more challenging because of the rivalry. So he finished that game, just one game sample size, with an 83.3 coverage grade, 4 targets, 1 first down allowed, 2 forced incompletions, and a passer rating allowed of 59.4. I just remember at the time thinking to myself, he's clearly a Band-Aid. He's clearly on the back 9 of his career, but I thought he provided them a spark. So anyway, I thought you did a good breakdown there of the differences or the similarities in Cheeto when it comes in Cheeto and Trey when it comes to play. And at this point, what they can give a team, but ultimately, Tennessee is ultimately giving the Ravens the most here, and that is, taking that $7.5 million burden off the table, which is important for a cap strap team.
Absolutely, but that kind of brings us to the overall cornerback conversation and needs that the Ravens have, and as we head into the draft, we kind of know what the needs are. We're looking at edge rusher, we're looking at corner, we're looking at safety, we're looking at a left guard, things like that. What I watched, not last night, but the night before, NFL Live on ESPN do a segment on the Ravens. And they kind of posed this question to the panel, and Daniel Jeremiah was doing cross network promotions. I don't know. He was over on ESPN. I saw Eisen over on with Stephen A. Smith, like NFL Network and ESPN were kind of partnering up. And so anyway, Daniel Jeremiah was there from the NFL Network. And so NFL Live had asked the panel of Daniel Jeremiah, Marcus Spears, and I'm forgetting the third person, but it was like, should the Ravens focus on helping Lamar Jackson, or should they focus on the defense? Now, obviously, there's some, ultimately, I guess you are helping a quarterback, right? If you have a good defense. I think Burrow could use a good defense, right? But the question really was like, do you go heavy on offense or do you go heavy on defense? I cut up some of their answers. We'll start with Spears, and then it goes into DJ, and then DJ talks about a specific player he would like the Ravens to draft.
No chance they should be looking to help Lamar. They should be looking to help this defense, and especially the secondary. But this secondary was awful. They made some big plays down the stretch, got better. But ultimately, this defense is what I would see you would bolster, because offensively, they put up 1 million yards by their quarterback, their running back, and they would have had a 1,000-yard receiver, I believe, if Zay Flowers wouldn't have got injured, or maybe he was at 1,000 before he did. So talking to Lamar is great, but talking to the defensive guys is more important.
Yeah, I think they've got to go to the defensive side of the ball. You know, I haven't worked in that place. I mean, defense, there's pride in that organization. That was not up to their standard last year, specifically to me in the secondary. So I look at a guy like Max Hairston from Kentucky. If he were to drift down into that range, the Ravens believe in speed, toughness, and instincts. He checks all three of those boxes. In fact, they got a corner last year in Wiggins who ran 4.28. You come back and get Hairston this year who ran 4.28. They might have the fastest pair of corners in the NFL if that were the selection. But the defense has got to be better, and to me, it starts there in the secondary.
All right, so the third person on the panel, by the way, was Louis Riddick. Thank you to the chat for reminding me there. Obviously, the Ravens are going to get both offensive and defensive picks, but what you kind of mean by that is almost like, what are you going to do with your first and second day picks, right? And as much as you always want to keep adding to the offense, it is for this year mostly set. You're only looking for one new starter. So whereas on the defensive side, you have lost Michael Pierce. You have a solid but not great outside linebacker crew. We just talked about, Brandon Stevens and Tre'Davious White are gone, and only one has been replaced with Chido Awuzie. And so you have that there. And then, of course, they cut Marcus Williams. Thank you. I wanted to say Peters. Marcus Williams. And he hasn't been replaced. And I know that they want to use Kyle Hamilton all over the field. So you have a need at safety. There's just so many more needs. And inside linebacker, like is Trenton Simpson going to be a starter? I know he's penciled in right now, but that's pre-draft. That's late free agency, the last wave of free agency. And so you look at all those holes on the defensive side, way more on the offensive side. And I think those guys are right. You have to focus on that side of the ball.
I agree as well. What have we spent all offseason talking about? While it wasn't perfect from Lamar in January, while it wasn't, and what I mean by January is the divisional round game, while it wasn't a perfect performance from Lamar, while it certainly was far from perfect from Mark Andrews, they have invested around Lamar in the offensive side of the ball. And some of that has been due to hits offensively in the draft, right? Roger Rosengarten, build the wall. Certainly great start after one rookie season. Zay Flowers has been a hit. Rashad is developing and coming off a breakout season. You've invested in the running back position. You have perhaps the deepest tight end room in the entire league for our money.
Re-signing Ronnie Stanley.
That should have been mentioned first because of the importance of the blindside protector and what Ronnie's meant to this organization and to Lamar's personal protection unit. So yes. And if there's one thing that we'll continue to think about as well, is while Chuck Smith has totally revamped this pass rushing attack, and guys have had career years in part due to his tutelage, Kyle sipping from the fountain of youth, Adafe coming off a double-digit sack season for the first time in his career. Where was it in that do or die game. It wasn't there consistently enough. And so when we've spent so much time this offseason talking about continuing to build through the trenches so that you can hang with the Philadelphias. And they've done that offensively. They've done that. What's that? And Kansas City's and the Detroits and everybody else that's going to be on their murderer's row schedule. Okay. Their opponents go take a look at their 2025 opponents. I know you have. I'm talking to Chat. I'm sure Chat has as well. They've done so on one side of the football. Now it's continued. It's priority number one going into the weekend is ensuring that you're building out the defensive side of the trenches and making sure that come January, that Achilles heel that was this past season, the inability to consistently get to the quarterback, does not come back to bite you again.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about Daniel Jeremiah and the person that he thought the Ravens could maybe target in this draft. He was talking about Maxwell Hairston, cornerback out of Kentucky. And he was driving home this idea, let's have some speed in the Ravens defensive backfield, because if you think Nate Wiggins is fast at 4.28, guess what? Maxwell Hairston is right there with a 40 at 4.28. Exactly the same. Both these guys a year apart ran the exact same 40 time. And so they're two guys that both might be slender, but they would have a lot of speed, which is why yesterday when Emory Hunt was on the show, if you missed it, go back and watch that. He was fantastic, as he always is. So I said, Emory, would you be nervous with this pairing? Because neither of these guys are like the physical, like Jalen Ramsey's out there, right? Where everybody's talking about Jalen Ramsey right now since he got permission to seek a trade from the Miami Dolphins. And so that's a physical corner. These guys are more speedsters. Do you want to have two of those and not somebody who's a little bit more physical? And Emory was like, look, I don't care what size or shape or whatever they're coming as. If they can stick around the ball and they can disrupt the ball, that's what you want out of a cornerback. And so nobody's getting over the top if you have a speed duo like this in the Ravens backfield.
Especially when you got the luxury of having a unicorn like Kyle Hamilton, who's always going to seemingly be there with an emergency backup plan type of presence. By the way, Eileen is just asking the chat, or asking us maybe, isn't this the player that Emory didn't like? You're thinking of Nick Eamon-Warry, at the safety position out of South Carolina, who he kind of aired some caution around when it comes to his play and what he's watched on film. So matter of fact, Sarah, he referred to him as one of those players that had a hot combine and became a hot name coming off the combine testing, the results, the ways in which he performed while in Indianapolis. And Henry's question was basically like, well, why wasn't his name hot during the season nationally, the way that it is now coming off the combine? So I think just proceed with caution was Emory's thought there, but more here on Maxwell Hairston.
Yeah, so for PFF, Maxwell Hairston last year had the highest coverage grade of 92.5. His overview, kind of what we talked about, this is from NFL Network. Lance Zierlein saying that he is slender. He's outside. He's got long arms, impressive ball production. While I read this, can you look up? I don't know if he's got it here, how many interceptions he had. But he says Hairston is capable of playing all forms of zone and man coverage. He anticipates well with his eyes, has the burst to take the ball away. Oh, here it is, Bobby. 6 interceptions, 3 of them returned for touchdowns over his last 20 games. So sounds like 2, definitely more than a season. He stays connected in man coverage with good agility and fluidity, but needs to do a better job of locating the football downfield. He will struggle to contest big wideouts, which is what we just talked about. And his run support will turn off some teams. That's all right. I don't know that that's got to be my number one priority for my corner, but obviously it's always helpful. You do have, as you said, Kyle and Marlowe to do those types of things. Hairston has the athleticism and on-ball talent to become a starter, but he needs to prove he can hold up to the rigors and physicality of the NFL game. So there you go.
Yeah, I'm looking at his college stats right now. Basically, those you mentioned the interception, 6 of them. That really came during his sophomore season. He had 5. 5 of those 6 came in his sophomore season at Kentucky.
Oh, wow.
So just one in his lone season, and is what ultimately is going to become his final season. What I don't know about Maxwell is what happened in between, because, and maybe we have some nuggets on this if we go to his draft profile, because these stats are showing that his sophomore season he had 5 picks, and that was his breakout campaign. But then they're showing 24 as his senior season. Was he injured all throughout his junior year?
Where
Maybe this is just marked incorrectly, because it's showing 23 was his sophomore season and then 24 was his senior. So this must just be inaccurate. He must have only played 3 seasons at Kentucky. But anyway, the breakout year for him was undoubtedly 23 when it comes to playmaking.
Yeah. So you know what? Whether it's Hairston or somebody else, I could get on board with kind of a surprise cornerback pick in the first round. If like all the edge rushers, you can't draft based off of need. But say like Malachi Starks is gone, and I don't know, maybe some of your favorite pass rushers are all gone. It's like, I don't know, cornerback. Yeah, Ravens could use another cornerback. Again, let's talk about this, how they finished 32nd in the league in passing yards per game, and they certainly got better, but the defense needs an infusion of talent for sure.
For what it's worth.
Sorry,
yeah. One little nugget before Super Chats. For what it's worth, Lance Zierlein in his draft preview under the weaknesses tab, he's got Maxwell as labeled as a massive liability and run support. So just throwing that out there when it comes to what he'll have to work on up at the NFL level when it comes to Lance's thoughts.
And by the way, real quick, just to have an idea of where he ranks among all the cornerbacks, Mel Kiper, he's not the end-all be-all, but you just saw that he was number 1 in PFF's coverage grade. Mel Kiper has him ranked as his 3rd best corner, depending on where you put Travis Hunter. If it's Travis Hunter is your team, if your team sees him as a cornerback first, then maybe Maxwell Hairston falls to number 4. But he's got Will Johnson out of Michigan, number 1. Jody Barron out of Texas, number 2, and then Hairston at number 3.
Got it. Yeah, only one super chat here. O'Bird is a channel member, but we gave him his shout out earlier on in the week, if memory serves. Douglas H. Brown Sr., who's also a channel member of ours, says that Lamar has always had talent, but the quarterback coach has made him one of the very best passers in the league, and that he's only been working with T. Martin for the last 2 years since James Urban left. Has it been 2 since T was promoted?
Yeah, but I mean, T's been around, right? Like, I wouldn't say he hasn't like been helping, but yeah.
Oh, prior to that, I think he was the pass game coordinator or something along those lines. He's been on staff for several years now. T.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but there's no question. There's no question that T. Martin, as a former college quarterback himself, heck of a resume. Won a BCS national championship, by the way. If you go all the way back to 1998. Where he played at Tennessee, and then he went on to become a 5th rounder in 2000 and kind of hovered around the NFL for a few years. T has been with the organization
since. He was wide receivers coach in 2021, 2022, and then 2023 he moved to quarterbacks coach when Urban took off.
I might have been thinking about Keith Williams when it came to the pass game coordinator. Maybe that was actually Chris Hewitt. Anyway. Yes, he's been with the organization for a while. Definitely deserves some credit, and we appreciate the super chat from Douglas. And here comes another channel member of ours. Sarah, I'll let you take this one from Boise.
He said, drafting, developing in this is this organization's strength. Don't reach for single position like a cornerback. Add more versatility with safeties. Absolutely. They're good at not reaching and just taking whoever falls to them, which always happens. To be honest, it always happens to the Ravens. It seems to always happen to the Eagles. Seems to happen to the Chiefs sometimes because they're always picking at the end, and they just wait. They just wait for other teams to overreach and let 1 or 2 or 3 gems, fall down to them. So later on in the show, I've got some interesting analysis of Eric DeCosta since he became. Actually, is it Eric DeCosta? It might be all Ravens. And did an interesting study on the draft. So we'll get to that in quick hits.
all of our channel members showing some love today. John R. throws us a super sticker. Thank you, John. And thanks to all of you who've hopped on the channel membership bandwagon. If you guys are interested in doing the same, you haven't heard of it, it's a brand new feature that we rolled out last month that YouTube allows us to do, which is basically just, hey, we allow you guys to become different level members as channel members, different Voltron members, and you can go check it out, learn more by visiting the show notes. You can also find a link that's included in the show notes, or excuse me, as a pinned comment right now in the live chat. Can you tell the time change is starting to get on me over here? But another one from Mike, who writes, Ravens media is floating a lot of names. Sarah, how much does EDC's influence publishing around draft time? He said something about burying the LJ visit. I think that was on was that on Todd McShay's podcast, I think, recently?
Yes, and he said that before. They always they didn't want anybody to know about Lamar Jackson for sure. I'll tell you, because I worked in the media department for a long time. Here's the influence that the scouts and coaches have. It's usually they come to you after you've published something and they don't like it. And they'll say, take it down, which does not happen super often, but it did happen. And so from the scouts' point of view, the biggest directive was like, do not put out who's coming to visit. Even like I tried to push back and I ultimately lost. What do you know? Against the scouts and GM. Or Ozzie Newsome didn't care as much. Ozzie just hated all media. He wasn't paying attention. But they definitely didn't want visits out there for sure. But in terms of pushing names, never. So when Ravens media, when they're doing publishing, and I know this because I was the editor and in charge of content for 10 years. Okay. It was like, we were on our own coming up with what content we felt like we should cover. And so it was never like them coming to us and say, hey, will you write or will you do a video about this or that? It was never that. It was more like, just don't put out our visits. And then if we said something that ticked somebody off somewhere in the building, we would hear about that. But that happened like maybe a couple times a year. So.
I'll never forget 24-year-old Bobby at Brian Billick's Ring of Honor celebration. I walked up to Ozzie, all like excited and fired up and feeling like, why not? Let me give it a shot. I went up and introduced myself and asked him to come on the show. And I think I told you this before. He just looked me up, son, not right now. I'm not doing this right now. And I'm like, okay, all right, Mr. I probably called him Mr. Newsome, honestly, back then. But yeah, anyway. That's another funny one here from Isaiah C2, maybe one day, right? He does do shows here and there. He has been on a couple shows, but it's very few and far between. Isaiah C278 says, kind of that MJ, right? Kind of that Michael Jordan type feel. Like he doesn't feel like he needs to be in the limelight whatsoever. Now, MJ doesn't have any social media, which doesn't necessarily mean that. I mean, through the Last Dance, that was definitely in the limelight. That docu-series from a few years ago, that was still insane. I remember that during the pandemic, like it was yesterday when that came out. And then he and Scottie Pippen start going back and forth. That was what a wild time. Isaiah C278 writes, good to see you both. Love Lamar, but the offense just lacked discipline in the playoffs. The defense, however, needs some help. And another one from SMKG. Super chats are flying in today. Thank you all.
Suddenly flying in. Yeah, appreciate you guys on this Good Friday. SMKG says, I think they're taking James Pierce or Walter Nolan or Harmon in the first. Strength of the draft is all in the defensive line, but those guys are different. I mean, honestly, any one of those guys would be tough. That'd be nice to add those. James Pierce?
That Emery singled out
Harmon.
Emery singled out Pierce and Mike Green for Cameron Walker's chat.
He said Mike Green first, and then he did Pierce Jr. second. Yep.
We appreciate you guys for being with us. Over 1,500 concurrents. Please like the video on your way in. Subscribe if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when our daily live content is dropping. We thought that maybe a little exercise here leading into draft weekend, or it's technically not draft weekend yet. That's next weekend. Sarah and I wanted to, what's that?
I said, we're close.
We are getting very close. We are 6 days out from the draft, and I'm excited about what we have coming up on Thursday night. 8 o'clock is the actual start of the draft. We will be live at 7. We've got guests that are tentatively scheduled throughout the evening we hope that you'll spend part of your nights with us, whether it's a split screen kind of a night, whether it's just us, whether it's ESPN background muted with us on sound or vice versa, whatever it is. We hope that you'll be with us. Smokescreen or sincerity? That's today's exercise when it comes to the messaging that's come from one winning drive, Eric DeCosta, the pre-draft press conference that was held earlier this week, Sarah. And what we've done is selected certain storylines, certain players, certain topics to kind of gauge what our gut feeling is. Again, smokescreen or sincerity?
Yeah, sorry, I just got distracted by my daughter. This is again different. I said my kids are home at school today, but yeah, set up well there. Yeah, smokescreen or sincerity. So we took 4 statements here. We'll start with this one, Bobby. And by the way, I want to add this. Eric DeCosta has talked about the art of lying before. He's one of the best liars I know. And the art is sometimes you have to tell the truth. So sometimes when I hear people talk about the pre-draft press conference, I feel like they go too far on he's lying side. Like everything. They're like, oh, that's a lie. Oh, that's a lie. Oh, that's a lie. Oh, that's a lie. Sometimes he is being sincere. That's how you really are deceptive. You gotta put some truths in there too. So this one, we'll start with this one. He was asked about evaluating the guys in this draft class at edge rusher and the options that they could have. And I think you have the audio on this, right? Maybe we go ahead and play what his answer was.
I do. And this was, again, from earlier this week. Eric DeCosta at the podium.
I do think it's a good draft class. Now, if I'm not mistaken, we've got our entire outside linebacker core coming back this year. So that's a great situation for us because we didn't lose anybody. And so from that standpoint, I think it's good. Now, again, there are some really talented guys in this draft class. And, there are guys that we'll be looking at as first-round guys, second-round guys, third-round guys, fourth-round guys we think could come in and compete to really play right away or
Okay, I think that's the main part of what we wanted to get at. So when he's asked, where are you guys at in evaluating your edge rushers, he says, if I'm not mistaken, we've got our entire outside linebacker core coming back this year. So he's projecting strength as if he's not desperate for an edge rusher. So him starting that way, do you think he's trying to put out a little bit of a smoke screen to show, hey, we will be looking at edge rushers, of course, and he names every single round that there is. But do you think it's a little bit of a smoke screen saying, hey, all of our guys are returning?
I love you, Eric. There's not an ounce of sincerity in this opening part of the exercise. Not an ounce. Not a droplet, Sarah. There's not 1 ounce of sincerity. We all understand the biggest need. And I think there's actually a universal understanding, Sarah, that this is the biggest need, whether it's in the fan base, whether it's in the content creator community, whether it's in the media community, whatever. There is a clear need, and Jeremiah gets upset when I use the word Band-Aid. So I will use Kyle Van Noy as someone who has been a resurgent, bridge type player for them at the position. He will not be here 5 years from now. He may not be here after this upcoming season because he has 1 more year left on his deal. Kyle has been a fantastic story, but he is a temporary fix. Adafe is coming off a breakout season. We don't know what that looks like. Can he stack back-to-back years? And will they want to pay him if he continues to do so coming up next year? Or would they rather try to kind of refill and restart going through the draft if they're able to hit? David Ajabo has a big question mark around him. Tavius Robinson has shown signs, but do you feel confident that he can take the step towards double-digit sack type of ownership? And then after that, there's just more questions than there are answers. To me, opening storyline number 1 is a smokescreen.
Bobby, this screams to me the year when Eric DaCosta was asked about his wide receiver core, and he's like, I take offense to this. We've got a great wide receiver core. And he starts going through all of them. He's like, it's offensive that you guys would even ask it like that. Da, 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 da. And what does he do? He goes a few days later and drafts a first round wide receiver. Okay. So this one for sure comes across as smokescreen to me. Now, he didn't go as hard. He didn't go as hard, but we all know the edge rusher group. Yes, they're okay. They could play games right now, but boy, do you need an upgrade there. And you need, some of the shots he's taken in the past, Eric DaCosta with Ajabo and others just haven't really come to life yet. And that's probably why it is one of the biggest needs, is because the guys like Ajabo just hasn't become that dude. And so, yeah, he might need to go back to the first round well. And I think he's trying to project some strength here where there really isn't much. So,
hey, one thing, you just brought me down the rabbit hole, so I went and got the transcription because that's one of my favorite answers he's ever given on wide receivers in a press conference setting. Here's the quote. I'm aware that there's some fan discontent with our wide receivers and our drafting and all that. We've got some really good young receivers. It's insulting to these guys when they hear that we don't have any receivers. It's quite insulting. I'm insulted by it too, to be honest. I think we've got some guys that want to show everybody what they can do. April of 2021.
Okay, insult was the word, not offended. There we go, insulting.
That is one of my favorite walks down memory lane that you just brought us down. Thank you for that.
Was that the year he drafted? What year? Who did he get? Was it Hollywood? Was it Bateman? What year was that? I'm trying to remember.
No, 21 would have been
Bateman.
Yeah,
Bateman.
Yeah, it would have been Bateman. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Next answer.
That is just pure entertainment, man. It really is.
All right. Next question and answer, Bobby. Do you want to do this one? Because I set up the last one.
Yeah, I got you. So the question, you guys have 11 picks this year. Do you want to make 11 picks? Does having that many make you any more likely to package them and move up?
Now, real quick. His answer was very long-winded with lots of twists and turns and contradictory stuff. But this part is what I noticed everybody focusing in on. So this part is what I pulled.
Now we have a good team. We feel good about our roster. It's going to be hard for 11 players to make the team out of the gates this year. I mean, if they do, it will be incredible. History tells us that probably not all 11 picks are going to make the initial 53-man, which is a good problem to have. It means we're a talented team.
I think he's being sincere here.
I do too.
Like all you have to do is go look at the roster. And it's like you don't have room for 11 draft picks, especially when you go out and you're going to have undrafted guys coming in. And so do I think that he's going to use all 11 picks? I do not. I think he could move up for sure if there's somebody that he loves, especially we know how much in the depth there is in those middle rounds, but they have a ton of, what is it? Do they have a ton of 6 rounders? Is that where it is?
They have 4 sixth.
4 6. I'm sure they would love to package those and maybe move up a little bit in the 4th or maybe in the 5th or something like that. Or they could trade out and start stockpiling picks again for next year, right? And keep moving those. So I think he's being sincere that he's saying that we have a talented team, and it would be incredible if all 11 of those picks made it. And so in this one, I think he's being sincere. I don't think he makes 11 picks on next weekend.
Nothing else needs to be said there, which brings us to number 3.
We're going to combine we're going to combine 2 different statements here.
We definitely are. And it has to do with 2 positions in the secondary, safety and corner. And to your tweet, Eric DaCosta was asked about Ardarius Washington. He's not yet signed his restricted free agent offer sheet. So, hey, what's his status? EDC went on to say, I'm fairly confident that Ardarius will be back. I don't think it affects our decision-making at the position at all, meaning heading into the draft. It's a pretty deep safety crew. There's obviously the top guys, but there's maybe 4, 5, 6 guys that will probably be in the 3 to 5 rounds, meaning the 3rd through the 5th. this is a really nice pool of players to pick from. I would guess that of our 11 picks, at least one will be safety. And then the second part of it is just, was that on a different slide?
Yeah. No, it's right here, down in the corner.
You have it in the, yep, thank you.
Yep.
Basically just that EDC said the team will take at least one corner in this year's draft, although it may not be in the first round. Where are you leaning?
Okay, so on both of these, I think he's being sincere. I think that Ardarius Washington does not affect what they will do at safety. Again, knowing that you haven't replaced Marcus Williams, and they want to use Kyle Hamilton all over the field. And so even if Ardarius Washington were to return as a starter, you still need somebody else there that could potentially start with him if you want to move Kyle Hamilton around. So I think he's being sincere there, and waiting for Ardarius Washington doesn't change a thing. I also think he's being sincere about corner. And I think even though he's saying it doesn't need to be in the first round, it could be in the first round.
Yep.
I could see corner. I would hope they get a corner with one of their first 3 picks. That's where I would like to see it. I don't want to see another 4th, 5th, 6th rounder, although they could double dip there. In fact, I think they will double dip at corner. And so if you are going to double dip, let's go ahead and get one in one of the first 3 rounds. So I think he's being sincere on both of these. He will be getting a safety, and he will be getting at least one cornerback.
Done. We're lockstep on that, which brings us to the next one, and that is Mark Andrews, his future in Baltimore, where things are at going into draft weekend, being that he is entering the final year of his contract. Eric, from earlier this week.
Oh, man. I never know what's going to happen, Jeff. And I would never want to say this or that, but I can tell you this. Mark Andrews is a warrior, and he's played his butt off for us. And his competitiveness, his talent, his attitude, his leadership is so valued here. And he's a great player. And I think we're in the business of keeping as many great players as we can. So there's always a lot of unpredictability with the draft. You just never know.
Maybe he goes on to do the whole trolling, right, from earlier in the week that you kind of picked out and interpreted. We all remember the end of that. Have we traded a player mid-round before?
Or in the middle of the draft, they're like, yeah. And he's like, no, that was the day before. Ha. Okay, so when he says, they say, do you fully expect Mark Andrews to remain with the team? He says, you never know what's going to happen. Is that a smokescreen? Because there's a lot of people that just are adamant that saying there's no way Mark Andrews is going to be traded. There's absolutely no way. So he didn't say there's no way. So, is it a smokescreen pretending that he could go, but he's really for sure going to stay with the team?
Yeah, this is a tricky one. The first part of the answer to me comes across as sincere, because if that phone rings with an offer that he cannot deny, saying that he's not sure what's going to happen going into the weekend is sincere. But then the quote continues, I would never want to say this or that, but I can tell you this, and then he builds Mark up.
That part I believe is sincere.
I do as well,
yeah.
But it's also like, is that a smokescreen to kind of get things going here? Get some conversations going. I don't know. To me, I'm going to go with sincere, but there were a lot of twists and turns in this answer, and there have been a lot of twists and turns around this messaging all offseason long that you and I have been following.
So just to be clear, you're interpreting the first part as insincere. I never know what's going to happen because that's
sincere.
That's what I said.
I thought you said insincere. Okay.
No. Yeah, no, it's smokescreen or sincere. So you think the first part is sincere because that's true all the time. You never know what's going to happen.
Without question.
And so just to be clear, him saying it that way is sincere that you don't know what's going to happen, but really he's going to keep Mark. That's how you interpret it.
Well,
I guess I'm wondering, do you think that he's open for business?
I do.
Okay.
I do. But I think it has to be some big time business that comes his way. I think they have unfinished business. I think there's a tremendous amount of loyalty to this player within the organization. I think the impact that this player has had on Lamar as his former not only draft classmate, but as his security blanket, what he's accomplished here, what he is in the regular season time and time again. Yes, he has left plenty to be desired, albeit a small sample size in the postseason. We'll have that conversation in just a second here. But I do find that to be sincere.
That sincere that he's open for business.
I do.
Okay. All right. I agree. And I think it's because there's some backing to it. Okay. I think he is open for business because this is the second time he said it, and because of the contract situation, and because Isaiah Likely is there, and also because this isn't just him. Mike Garafolo on NFL Network reported, this was not his interpretation. He reported that both Mark Andrews and Eagles tight end Goddard was actually available earlier in free agency.
I put Mark Andrews and Dallas Goedert in the same category right now, which is veteran tight ends coming to the back end of their deals, valuable to the team that they're currently on, but those teams are going to listen. And Howie Roseman today in Philadelphia basically said the same thing when asked about Dallas Goedert, which is we've got to make separate decisions. We've got draft decisions to make, and we've got decisions with regard to the roster, and sometimes they're tough decisions. But they really, both of these guys were available at the start of the league year. Nothing materialized at that point. I would say neither one right now is imminent from my understanding. Could that change as we get closer to the draft? Could a lot of it depend on what these teams get in the draft and say, okay, we got to circle back. We still have a need at tight end. We could use a little more firepower on offense or whatnot, perhaps. So we're just going to have to see how it plays out. As of right now, again, nothing imminent with either one of these veteran tight ends who, again, if their teams don't get back what they want in the trade, they're going to hang on to them and keep them as part of the a key part of their offense this year.
Okay, so there's Garafolo saying that both Goddard and Mark Andrews was available, and people knew it, just that nobody bit. And so nothing imminent, things could change, this and that. So I think putting all those things together of, the cap hit, the comments from Eric DaCosta, and knowing that Isaiah Likely is there, I think that it is sincere that he is open for business. But like you said, he very well may not be traded because it takes two to tango. Somebody needs to bite, and then they have to have a big enough bite to move the Ravens. And then also if Goddard's out there, maybe it's like, well, which team will take less, So maybe we could see Goddard traded and not Mark Andrews. So do I think he's being sincere and saying, I'm open for business? Absolutely. Does that mean he's going to be traded? No, because it takes two to tango.
Yeah, we're pretty much on the same page across the board here with how we're looking at these storylines and gauging, smokescreen or sincerity. And by the way, I'm glad you found this sort of substantive clip, because what we were sort of hanging our hats on earlier in the week was Ian Rappaport's interpretation of a clip that he had heard, which was the audio that we just shared of DaCosta being non-committal on Andrews, and he was just giving his instant reaction to that rather than what he's heard. At least that was my interpretation of it. And Garafolo went down a more substantive route, which is helpful, and the Goddard angle of it makes it even more compelling.
Right. Now, one last thing on the Mark Andrews topic. It sounds like we're both reading it the same way of how Eric's putting it out there. But we had talked about this offline, might as well bring it online, because I had a very small bone to pick with you. And so might as well, discuss it here too. But I was listening to one of your personal channel shows. Well done, by the way. That's a lot of work to do our daily show. And then you also got your personal channel. I don't know how you do and find all that content, but I did feel like, I don't even know that you meant to, but I kind of felt like you misrepresented my position on Mark Andrews a little bit. So I wanted to clarify it or see if that's how you really feel. But somebody had said when you were talking about Mark Andrews, somebody had put in the chat like that, keep Mark Andrews, but don't use him in do or die moments, which is what I've been saying on this show. And you were like, yeah, Sarah thinks that too. And then you said, but I disagree because I can't live in a world of fear. And you said that twice, as if like, that's why I don't want to use Mark Andrews, that it's out of fear. And then you said, so if you're not going to use him in do or die moments, you said, well, he might as well not even be on this team. So it kind of was like a light bulb moment for me, because I have me and Eileen, who we're cool with. She confirmed that we're cool with. Me and Eileen have had some back and forth, being like, where I feel like she's putting words in my mouth, where she says, Sarah hates Mark Andrews and she wants him gone and this and that, which is not true. I'm more reading tea leaves. But I am firm about not using him in those do or die moments, because I want to use other people instead. He's had his chances. Others haven't. So let's go to others, or others have and they've come through. And so I just wanted to see, is that where you really think I'm at, that I don't want to use Mark Andrews out of fear, and then therefore I don't want him on the team? Or were you just kind of talking in the wind and didn't quite necessarily represent how I've been saying it for a couple weeks now?
I think your want, your desire for that can come across as, whether it's fearful, worrisome, concerned with Mark's sample size in the past of coming up short in a big moment. To me, that would take away from the potential chance that Mark could have to exploit a matchup, to exploit a moment in the game, right? Taking that out of the equation. Any game within the game nugget that Todd Monken has up his sleeve, that Lamar has up his sleeve, would be completely taken out of the equation because of something that's happened in the past. And so that's what led me down the road of how can that be? How can it be that almost the PTSD element of Mark coming up small in January, why was that continue to play a factor in the way that we use him for the foreseeable future? That's why, to me, it can come across as a little like hands off. I don't want any part of it. Now, whether it's fearful or not, we could talk about the verbiage, the correct language of it. But to me, it's like, ultimately, are you doing a disservice to the team if we're taking that out of the equation? Mark's background, Mark's history, Mark's ability to exploit this play, to exploit this matchup. You see where I'm going?
Yes, but you didn't say it that way, so I'm glad you're clarifying. Because you definitely made it seem like, well, Sarah's not going there out of fear, and so might as well not have him on the team. That's kind of how you quickly said it all, the way I took it. And so let me ask you this. Are you making a decision out of fear if you're 3rd and 1 at the goal line and you say, I'm going with Derrick Henry over Justice Hill? And we all love Justice Hill, right? We love him. But are you making that decision out of fear, or are you making that decision because it's like, I feel like we have a better chance on 3rd and 1 to go with King Henry over Justice Hill? Would you term that as fear?
Of course not. But that's like, to me, that's a hard comparison, because we're going from different position to different position. Now we're talking about specific yardage. We're talking about situational types of management.
I'm talking about, that's like a do or die moment. So I've said, here's a do or die moment, and I'm giving a situation. Okay, you're 3rd and 1. You need this touchdown to win the game. And so I've got 2 running backs who could get me a yard. And I could maybe go out wide and do some sort of trickery to make people think I'm going left, but I'm going to go with Justice Hill to the right, this and that. But I don't want any of that. I could do that, but I'm going with Derrick Henry, not out of fear, but because I'm making a decision that I think is best for my team. But I feel like you twisted it the opposite, to where it's like, oh, well, you're not using justice because you're afraid of what could happen. No, I'm making, and this, you twisted it and made it be like, well, it's a disservice to the team. No, it's a service to the team by going with Derrick Henry. Same thing with Mark Andrews. If I'm in a do or die moment based off of what Isaiah Likely has done in the playoffs, which is, I think he had 2 touchdowns just in the last playoff run, and he's come up big. He has a diving catch in the snow from 20 yards out. Yeah, I'm calling that dude's number in do or die moments. Is that out of fear? Am I doing a disservice to the team? Or am I doing a service to the team because this guy has shown me in do or die moments he can do it, and this guy has shown me in the playoffs that he hasn't? So that's not out of fear. That's out of a service to the team, because I think that this is a better decision. And I've been saying that this whole time. It's not because, it's just because I think that other options are better at this point based off of what they've shown us.
I get that. I see it as apples to oranges, though, because Justice does not have the shortcomings in those moments that Mark does, right? So that whole like balancing of of trying to figure out, are we going to go with Isaiah or Mark versus Derek or Justice? To me, I see that as apples to oranges because Justice doesn't have that track record the way Mark does.
Which is more of a service to the team then. Because one person has shown he hasn't done it, and one person hasn't shown that he's incapable. So again, I'm doing more of a service to the team. Why do I keep forcing something where I've seen that he has come up short in these big moments? Justice Hill hasn't shown us that he can't do it. He just hasn't had the opportunity. Mark Andrews had the opportunity and didn't deliver. So this is more of a service to the team.
Who
it's
just
a
froze?
Smart,
Did I freeze?
You've been freezing in, like your voice has a little bit in and out, but it catches up. So I'm guessing it might have been you, but it could have been me.
What this comes down to, I think, really good argument. What it comes down to, I still haven't lost faith.
That's fair. If you still trust Mark Andrews, that's fair. I guess where I'm coming from is when you represent my position, right? Try to, or just maybe not represent it, or just don't put the words in my mouth, which is like, oh, it's out of fear. It's out of this and that. It's like, no, I'm making a smart decision because any decision you make in football, if you could always term it as, well, they didn't go with that one, so they must have feared that one. Whereas to me, fear means that like you're trembling and you're nervous and you don't know what to do and you're kind of indecisive
Sarah,
and this and that.
But you've lost faith in Mark. That can be interpreted as you are fearful of going to him in these moments.
I have less faith in Mark than I do in Isaiah Likely. If Isaiah Likely wasn't in the picture, if Derrick Henry wasn't out there, if Zay Flowers wasn't out there, or any of these other weapons weren't out there, then I could still be like, all right, well, maybe Mark Andrews can turn it around. But why keep doing that? I have more faith in Isaiah Likely than I do in Mark Andrews. That's the most accurate statement.
All right.
But do you have one that you trust more than the other?
Between the two of them?
Yeah.
Isaiah's numbers are better in the postseason. I pulled it up earlier on that specific show. By the way, Holly was the reason for how this all happened. She just chatted us a minute ago that her comment was what inspired me to go down my rant. And here she's still chiming in. But
there's Holly, and then everybody's like, well, losing faith is fear. Da, 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 da. And so like we're getting into like the definitions of faith and fear and all that kind of stuff. But to me, it's just a smart football decision. Like,
let me just answer your question.
Go with Isaiah Likely. But yeah, go ahead and answer my question. Go ahead.
He's been more reliable in the postseason than Mark has. The numbers reflect that. So
why not call his number? Why not give him the chance?
Well, his number
if we had if we were in the same scenario and we need a 2-point conversion again, and you want to call that play, who are you, Bobby Trossett, calling? Are you gonna Ravens are back in the playoffs? They are in a do or die moment. They love this play that they have set up with the matchups that are on the field. We feel like our tight ends can exploit their defenders. We've got this great play with our tight ends. Whose number are you calling? Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely?
With both of them on the field.
You've got them both, because I believe Isaiah Likely was on the field at the time too.
Well, look, you're going to go with the more reliable, statistically reliable player in the postseason, which has been Isaiah. But if the play goes in a certain direction, if something breaks down at the line of scrimmage, if there's an audible involved, if there's a coverage bust, of course you're not going to ignore 89.
Sure. If Mark Andrews is wide open and something else broke down over there, I'm not saying completely ignore him, but I'm saying as a coach or as an offensive coordinator, and you're putting in packages going in, you just said it. You're picking Isaiah Likely just like me.
You're going to go.
Are you doing that out of fear, or are you doing it based off of you think it's the smartest decision?
Whoever's open.
No, I'm asking as an offensive coordinator, you're designing a play, and your first read, like what we just saw, is Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely. The play is designed for one of those guys. For the first read, like we just saw in that 2-point conversion, whose number are you calling?
So much of this is due to, I see where you're going. No,
how can I
just say this? Statistically, yes, reliability wise, you're going to go with Isaiah, but
Okay, that's
so
your
much,
answer then.
but so much needs to be taken into account with matchups and coverage and scheme and play design and everything that goes into that.
What matchup can Mark Andrews, if you're I get what you're saying, that all of that needs to be considered, and that's what John Harbaugh and Monken do. That's what they do before they go in the game. They have packages set up for these goal line moments, 2-point conversion moments, all of that. They have that set up. So you're the coach. You have the package. You see something where I want to call on a tight end. Here's my first read. Are you going with Isaiah or Mark Andrews? You have to make a decision.
Honestly, I feel great. I feel great with both players.
Right.
I do.
So who are you choosing? You have to make a call. Somebody's a first read. Who is it? Do or die moment. Isaiah Likely or Mark Andrews?
I guess I will lean on the small sample size statistic that goes in Isaiah's favor. That doesn't. If you're going to say that proves your point, then we're going to have to restart this argument.
Well, you have to make, the coaches have to make a decision.
Yeah.
You're trying, and so make a decision.
I'll go with the guy who's been more consistent in the postseason. But to me, that doesn't. It's not because I've lost faith in 89.
That's fine. That's fine. I believe you. I believe you haven't lost faith. But at the end of the day, we're calling the same number. You may have more faith in Mark Andrews than me, and that's perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, when the game is on the line, we're calling the same number.
Let's see which number's called next year.
All right.
Quick hits.
Let's do it.
Brought this one in from Jason over the cap. It's 2025 homegrown players versus draft capital. And look at where the Ravens are. Far out. It's a look at the current percentage of homegrown players on a roster and each team's draft capital for the upcoming draft. And I just feel like we've mentioned this a number of times in recent weeks, right? And what is that? The Ravens try to keep their players, their homegrown players, home as much as they possibly can. A lot of this has to do with the way they hit, the way they scout, and the way that they develop. More.
Well, real quick, can you go back real quick?
Yeah.
So almost 80% of the Ravens roster is homegrown.
That's what it's looking at. Yeah, it's just under 80%. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
That is. Now, Washington, this is 2025. Washington in the past, they've got a new regime, but in the past be like, okay, bad teams are towards the back of this field, right? Washington's the outlier because they've got a new regime. They've got a new quarterback. But a lot of these guys that don't have homegrown players, not the best teams in the league. Chicago, Arizona, Falcons. Ooh, look at the Steelers. They've taken a turn. Steelers used to be way out with the Ravens. So, interesting.
Yep. More quick hits. Aaron Rodgers went on the McAfee show for the first time this offseason yesterday. It was quite the interview. It had twists and turns and you name it. But he has not made a decision on his future 6 days out from the start of the draft. The wait continues. He says his focus is on his personal life. Retirement's still an option. Money has not been a factor in his decision. He said he'd even play for 10 M's, meaning 10 million, which would be well below, obviously, the average quarterback salary, particularly when you think about his resume and track record. He also mentioned he's got a lot going on in his personal life. His inner circle, people are dealing with stuff. He's got a very serious girlfriend. He's a dog dad now. It's quite the interview. But this, Sarah, takes the cake for me. This right here. Him explaining what took place when he flew out on his own dime, to use his words. We just got a $99.99 super chat, by the way. We'll get to that in just a second. When he flew himself out to meet Aaron Glenn, the incoming head coach of the New York Jets, and things went south quickly. Aaron asked him, "You sure you want to play football?" Aaron said, I don't believe the quote was yes, by the way. They might be misrepresenting.
He said, "I'm interested."
That's what it was. Thank you.
Yes.
And then Glenn's just like, hey, we're going in another direction. And at one point, he left the room, came back with the GM. It literally was like a 15 or 20-minute conversation. Aaron told his pilot that he had planned on spending 3 or 4 hours in New York. And it goes south and south quickly.
Yeah,
Wow.
You texted me about it yesterday, and I haven't responded. It made me, I didn't even know what was going on. And you must have texted me while it was listening. So late last night, I was able to listen to the whole interview. Let me say this, the Jets and saying, hey, we're going in another direction. I get Aaron's point. Hey, you could have told me with the phone call. But like, I don't fault them. Like if they're going another direction, they know what they're doing. They're being decisive. Fine. What I didn't like is when Aaron was like, what the heck? You know, he didn't say it exactly like this, but was basically like, I've been in the league forever. I'm a multiple time MVP. Like, you don't even want to pick my brain. You don't even want to hear who I think are like good leaders and who could be this and that. And sometimes it's like a new regime comes in and you just derailed the organization for 2 years. So it's like, no, Aaron, I don't want to talk about all that. Like, I don't have anything to ask you. I don't have anything to like, could he have done that over the phone? Sure. But like, I don't fault them for not wanting to sit there for 3 hours and pick his brain. Like, that was like a little bit arrogant for me. But where I do kind of get Aaron, and not in the Jets, but kind of like bigger picture, because everybody wants to know, are you retiring? Are you going to sign with the Steelers? Like this and that. And he's hit a stage in his life, and most people hit this stage in life at some point. And usually it comes with age. But a lot of people hit that stage in life that it's like, I don't give an F stage of life. Like, I don't give an F. So when he was like, listen, I'm not going to give an answer until I'm ready to, right? And he talks about, he didn't really get deep into it, but he talks about how much stuff he's dealing with personally, or at least his friends or family, his inner circle. And it sounds like he's trying to be a good friend or boyfriend or something. I don't know. I don't know who. I don't know any of that. And so he's kind of like, I'll decide when I'm ready to. And he's like, but I'm not holding anybody's hostage. So like, the Giants moved on, and all these other teams, the Jets moved on. All these other teams moved on. They can do that. And if the Steelers wanted to move on, they could. It's just that there's no other great veteran options. They're going to go and they're going to have a draft. And regardless of what Aaron decides, they're going to draft how they want to draft, including at quarterback. And so that part of it, and I see older players do this all the time. Like, I feel like Jadeveon Clowney was one of those guys that was like, call me during training camp or right on the eve of training camp, right? Like, you hit a certain part in your career where you're like, I'm not committing until right before training camp starts because I'm not dealing with OTAs and all that kind of stuff. And so that part I don't fault Aaron for, because he's saying, I'm going to make a decision when I want to, but you go ahead and do what you got to do. And when I am ready, if there's an opportunity we can come together, then fine. That part I'm cool with on Aaron. But where he got all kind of arrogant and being like, hey, you should have picked my brain, that part was a little much for me.
I think our audience knows I'm a big Aaron guy. I think he's got more left to give. Not much, but more left to give to an NFL team. Sarah, this was the first time yesterday where I thought to myself, is he at a point in his career where he has time for football?
Right.
Does he want to give himself to football anymore?
He doesn't in April.
That's what these guys do. That's what these guys do, right? They give themselves to their craft. And this was the first time throughout this process of what he referred to, by the way, as a debacle in New York. He referred to his 2 years as a debacle. So I don't think he's very pleased with how things kind of the new regime treated him. And they, by the way, they had no, I think this is kind of what you were getting at. They had no commitment to treat him in a certain way. There was nothing that was required of them.
When he said he flew out on his own dime, I agree with you, Bobby. When he said he flew out on his own dime, like, that's your first sign, dude.
Yeah.
They're not flying you out.
Yeah.
That's your first sign.
This to me was the first moment where I thought to myself, I wonder if he has other priorities that are trumping football right now and what it takes to continue his football career. And so I think
sure is right now. Will it in August?
Yeah. That becomes the question.
Yeah.
By the way, we have a slew of super chats, a lot more quick hits, and we are 10 minutes over. What do we want to do with content?
Yeah, so we can push what we've been pushing 5 days in a row.
All right.
We'll push it again. Yes.
All right, let's get this in, though.
We just have to get it in before Thursday night, because then it's like not important anymore. But
and it's going to get even more slower next week leading into the draft. That's when it's going to get even more quiet.
I think more rumors will fly next week.
But in the past, though, it's gotten really quiet. Memory definitely serves me on this one. It's gotten really quiet leading up. So we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
Jason Brown, former Ravens, going to be announcing picks 59. That's in the second. And 91. So congrats to him. UK Ravens is going to have a specific selection as well. And then where's 91? Is 91 in the third? Wait a second here. Let's just do this real quick.
It's got to be the third. 32, 64.
Let's just do this real
94.
quick.
No, I think it's still in the second.
91 is the third.
Oh, it is.
So there you have it.
We're not
One in the
math
first.
geniuses over here.
It's all good. But yes, like you said earlier on, the onslaught comes on day 3, 4 in the 6th, 183, 203, 210, and 212. So there you go. Let's get to some super
I just
chats.
want to, let me just give one piece of love real quick. We'll skip all the other quick hits, but can we just put this one in? I hate it when it does that. James Ogden, who was just on the show. Remember, he was plugging his Ravens draft guide. Just wanted to give him some love. His draft guide has come out, and it's Ravens specific. And so go check that out. He has tweeted it. It's linked. I think he's pinned it, all that kind of stuff. But he's got a Ravens specific draft guide. Again, we say thank you to him for coming on our show and wish him the best with his guide. I know I'll be checking it out.
Yeah, for sure. Same with Emery Hunt. Same with James, like you just mentioned. Same with Jason Smith. Support these guys. They're so talented, so hardworking, and obviously generous enough to spend some time with us. Back to the Super Chat we go. And whenever we do debate format, it seems as if Super Chats fly in. So maybe we'll have to continue to do that. Paul
when
writes,
you said, by the way, Sarah, we have a $9.99. I thought you said $9.99. I didn't hear $99.99 Super Chat. Hello.
Oh, I said $99.99. Absolutely. Paul hits us with a $5 Super Chat and writes, Bobby, since you're out in Colorado, all national park areas are free to enter tomorrow. If weather permits, which it may not, check one out. Go Ravens. Tori, did you know that? Tori's at the grocery store. She's literally like, when I first started the show, she's on the wall over, like right through this wall on the couch because she's off today, just chilling, probably listening to us. But Paul, thank you.
I'm going to. Right? It's snowing over there?
Yeah, it's snowing right now. And honestly, I should turn the webcam over, but I don't even think it's going to come out. They live in a town called Golden, and it's very new, kind of townhousey. And there is snow that's sticking. It's not just snow. This is snow that's sticking.
It's Colorado snow. I grew up in that stuff. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But you know what's great about Colorado is you can have a major snowstorm, but it doesn't stick around like it does in Baltimore or here in Columbus because the sun will come out and it melts fast. It's crazy.
Yeah.
They call it colorful Colorado for a reason. I mean, it's just gorgeous out there.
I got to tell you too, that elevation change, being this is my first time out here. We went to a CrossFit workout this morning. I was huffing and puffing during the cardio section. I think it's real. So,
it's one of the reasons why an Olympic training center is there.
Yes. And by the way,
where I grew up,
40-degree temperature swing from the moment I showed up to the moment I woke up this morning. So
that's why I said it. It could melt like that because the temperatures will swing. Yep.
Yeah. Today it's 29, and then on Sunday it's going to be like high 60s, and Monday, the day I leave, of course, naturally, it's going to be in the 70s. All right. New channel member, or at least 1 month standing channel membership here from Not a Fan. Sarah, for you.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but in 2022, with all those picks, didn't more undrafted free agents make the roster than draft picks or close to it? That's a good question.
I'll let you know right now. Let's see. 2022 Ravens draft class. Kyle Hamilton and Tyler Linderbaum, of course, need no introduction. They are very much still a part of the organization. David Ajabo's hanging on by a thread. Travis Jones, very much in there. Daniel Fa'alele, contrary to popular belief, potentially the favorite and projected starter at right guard. Jalen Armour-Davis is still on the team, but he's barely been available over his years. Charlie Kohler is still there. Jordan Stout's been the starting punter. Isaiah Likely, obviously, is around. Pepe Williams is no longer with the organization. Tyler Batty did not work out. He was their late-round running back. So, honestly, that's a pretty good class. Pepe and Beatty were the only ones.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the undrafted class, and I'm not seeing many dudes. Jeremiah Moon is one that but he did more special teams. Remember him?
So, I do.
Shamar Bridges, Anthony Brown.
Sarah, I got to say, this class,
it's
early to say this, that's a dope class. That's got a chance to be a pretty darn good class.
It's no 2018, but it's pretty good.
No.
Yeah.
Thanks, Not a Fan. Appreciate you. Yvette, all of our channel members are coming in hot today.
Yvette says, I think Mark Andrews has been traded already, she says. we will be announced the second night. Mark has been way too quiet. Voltrons. Oh, that was the other thing I was going to say. If you like believe that Mark, no matter what, is staying here and that's just a smokescreen, like what benefit would Eric DaCosta have over not backing his all-pro guy if he didn't want to let the league know that he was open for business? Like, what's the benefit? Because I guarantee Mark Andrews is hearing all this speculation. And this week it hit more national news channels. And so, like, if you really were saying, just joking, I'm not open for business, and then Mark's like, what's up, dude? Like, what are you doing? You know, like, there's no benefit of pretending you're open for business, but really not.
Yeah. By the way, my interpretation of his quiet offseason has been, I think, a lot due to how it ended.
Yep.
And two, how he's been prior to how it ended. This is how he's been. He is very, very mindful over the last year or two since the Ravens came up short in the AFC Championship game of his media appearances, what he chooses to do, what he chooses to post. He has become very, very under the radar. It doesn't mean he's not a media good guy, because he's always a finalist for that media award among the beat community every single year, and he's always making himself available. Now, he didn't, obviously, after this past season. We've had our conversations about that, but to me, this is more of a we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I think this is a personal preference. He's always been on the
quieter side in the offseason is what you're saying.
He's in a business mindset right now, and whether that's because of what's going on or a combination of the two behind scenes remains to be seen. Boise writes, loyalty is big. Andrews had productive longevity. The front office might compare his big game struggles to Evans or Cundiff. Fell short when the lights were on. Jarm
says the right words are out of trust.
That's probably going back to our Andrews debate. Olu weighing in on this says that I'm correct. Fear factor, Sarah. It comes down to roster spots. If you don't have faith, trade him. Isaiah isn't getting double teamed in those situations either. He benefits with tight end one in. Anything to say?
Yeah, I disagree, obviously. Again, any decision when you decide not to go a certain route, you can call it fear if you want. But I don't think that if I chose, like I already used this example, if I used King Henry on 3rd and 1 over Justice Hill, is it out of fear or just that, I believe one can do it better than the other? I mean, those are decisions that coaches make every single day.
Evil Smarty writes, Andrews wants to go to another playoff team to prove he can ball in the postseason. He probably thinks it's more of a Baltimore thing than him specifically. Olu, for you.
Says when both tight ends are in, Andrews is getting double teamed or shadowed. Look at the tape. Likely is usually one-on-one. Andrews is double teamed quite a bit. In fact, I feel like I've heard coaches say that, like, but this is before the Ravens have had more. This is more in those Lamar Jackson years where he had Mark Andrews and like nobody else, but still to his point, like coaches are like, yeah, we're going to take away Mark Andrews and then beat us elsewhere. So I think that's a fair point.
Their presence is mutually beneficial.
For sure.
Tom Votto was the 99.99 that came in about 15 minutes ago. And Tom writes, based on Sarah's argument, you can make the same case for Lamar in the playoffs. So are you saying you lost faith in Lamar? Lamar has come up small relative to his regular season. Therefore, if you lost faith in Andrews, you must also say you lost faith in Lamar.
Yeah, somebody else has said this before, and this is not hard to rebuttal. Appreciate Tom and his $100 super chat here. But yeah, no, you trying to make that comparison is not the same. And it's for a few reasons. Number one, there is not an equivalent of Isaiah Likely as the backup quarterback. All of this trust conversation is in context of who else is on the roster. Like I said, if plays break down, Mark's open, throw it to him. Like I've said before, if Mark is on the team this season, I bet he could be around 700 yards again and get several touchdowns. I think he will be a productive player. But if there was an equivalent of Isaiah Likely breathing down Lamar Jackson's neck, then that would be a different conversation. Number two, Lamar Jackson has been improving every year in the playoffs. Mark Andrews has not shown that. When Lamar Jackson had a bad first half, He came back in the second half and played lights out. He played lights out in 2023 against the Texans. He was good against the Steelers this year in the playoffs. Lamar Jackson's playoffs keep getting better. He's showing improvement. I'm not seeing the same for Mark Andrews. And then third and final, one of the reasons why I've lost some trust in Mark Andrews, but again, it's relative to the other guys on the team, is because he did not show up at the media both on Sunday or the next day on Monday at the locker room cleanout. That to me, and I know this part you agree with, Bobby, is that you feel like he should have been there. I feel like he should have been there. To me, you've got to, I don't even care what he would have said. I don't even care if he would have just given one-word answers, but you got to not be afraid of accountability in the public eye. That to me is how I interpreted it. Every single time Lamar Jackson is at blame, he looks the media in the eye and says, that's on me. Or at least he's there to answer questions. And so to me, in that postseason, Mark couldn't look it in the eye and Lamar could. And Mark left Lamar there to answer the questions for how it ended. And so there are three reasons. Those are three reasons why I still have faith in Lamar, but lost a little bit compared to the other players on the team in Mark Andrews.
I thought he should have been there as well. Was definitely surprised that he wasn't. I do believe what you're saying about the public eye interpretation. I think a lot of people felt like that was even a smaller moment than his previous moment that he came up small in at the end of the game, for him not to take that accountability. Now, he did post in the days that followed, as we covered on this show, he posted a heartfelt Instagram message. And that was that. And we have not heard from him in a microphone, podium, camera setting since. Do I think that that resonates with the locker room the way that it would with us or outside externally? No, I don't. I don't think he's lost a set. My gut would tell me that he hasn't lost an ounce of respect from anybody, any one of his peers internally.
No, I mean,
but it's
no.
but public. Hey, but public opinion means something when it comes to this whole thing.
Yeah, and so, if anything, it's more like, having conversations like what we had. Like, do I think that Todd Monken or Lamar or John Harbaugh have completely lost faith in Mark? No. But again, they're going to have to make decisions. Do we call on Isaiah Likely over Mark? Do we call on this player and this steward? Like, they're going to have to make those decisions, and we'll find out if they're on the same page as me or if I'm alone.
We may find out if he's on the team.
Yeah.
We may find out if Mark.
But again,
Andrews
if Isaiah Likely wasn't on the team, I don't know that we'd be having this conversation, even with his cap hit.
Probably not.
The trade conversation if Isaiah Likely wasn't around.
Not at all. Yeah.
Oh, so much of this has to do with Isaiah Likely right there.
Of course. Tom, thank you so much for that generous donation.
Thank you,
and
Tom.
Everybody that's chiming in. We've got 18 of them today. JT401 says, I need the Ravens to address this offensive line with one of these first two picks, specifically interior. This line is soft, and it shows when January comes. Mac McCoy for you.
Played the Eagles, too. Just saying. Mac says, why don't you guys take a poll of which player they would choose to run a play for at the end of the game? That would settle it likely for me. That'd be fun. We could do a poll with our members. Well, I guess we could open up more, but I could also do it on Twitter, and so could you.
This isn't the last time we're going to discuss this debate. And a good debate it was. We appreciate you guys for hanging out with us on this Friday. Darian Covington and 100 Crystal Clear are this episode's Patreon shout-out sponsors because of the support that they give to us on a monthly basis. So 100, Darian, thank you both. Patreon.com/RavensVault podcast if you guys are interested in getting more involved. And you can also become a channel member by clicking on that link that right now is pinned in the live chat. It's also at the top of the show notes. We've got over 70 channel members running strong. It's a great way to get more involved in the channel. It's a great way to support the channel and what we do on a daily basis year round. Partner, great week. And there is another.
There's two more.
Two more. Go ahead.
Adam Legend says Andrews and Likely had similar playoff stats, some catches, similar yards, and both showed up on the 2-minute drive in Buffalo. Andrews didn't prove. I don't think that's accurate. We can bring up drops. Can we bring up drops?
Well, we'd have to go play by play, honestly.
Fine. The conversation will go on. We'll bring in the stats maybe Monday.
Yeah. But Mark it is a bummer because aside from the fumble, which was a heck of a defensive play, by the way, to punch it out, and then obviously at the goal line, something that he'll remember for the rest of his life. He was having a productive game, if memory serves. Are you looking up the box score for his final stat line?
No,
Or
well,
what are you looking up?
I was looking up just playoff overall numbers. But I don't know
Well,
if I'm gonna find
he is referring to what's that?
He said playoff stats. So I felt like he was saying all of playoffs. Or is he only talking about the Buffalo drive? Because if we're talking about the Buffalo drive only, because he says the 2-minute drive in Buffalo, if we're talking about only that, like it's Isaiah Likely. Like he's the one who caught the diving touchdown in the snow on the drive before. He didn't get it punched out. And Mark dropped the 2-point conversion. So if we're only talking about Buffalo, like it's not even close.
Here he
is.
is.
We're going to go back to all
this year's
playoffs.
This year's playoffs.
Oh, this year's playoffs. Okay, well, I'm talking
playoffs.
about all playoffs. Yeah,
I got you.
Okay.
Just while we're on the divisional round game, and Adam, by the way, thank you for this. We'll continue it, and it's a good conversation to have, and it jogs your memory too, because I mean this is like several months ago now. But Likely finished with 4 for 73 and a touchdown on 5 targets. Andrews finished with 5 receptions for 61 yards on 7 targets. No touchdowns, and obviously the fumble and the goal line snafu.
And real quick, I'm just seeing, I think it was Cameron who said, why doesn't Sarah just admit that she's lost all faith in Mark? And it's because it's not accurate of my feel. Like why people keep wanting to put words in my mouth that I have to be one extreme or the other. If Mark were on the team and if he's not traded and Isaiah Likely got injured, I'm like, here we go, Mark. Because I have more trust in him than I do Charlie Kolar. It was not accurate for me to say I've lost all faith. It's all in relation to the other players on the team.
Gotcha. Saab Blitz 34 writes, going to be a big decision next year, one way or another. You have to see what Zay can do as number one. Meaning Likely, yeah, number 1 tight end. Lamar loves him too, and he knows this is a business. I thought he was talking about because you have an extension at some point to give to Zay. If it's meaning Zay Flowers, there's going to be multiple extensions for Zay's here, right? For Flowers and for Likely. So good stuff, Saab.
Yep, lots of decisions.
Awesome stuff. 90 minutes of content on this Friday for you guys. We appreciate you. Hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Like the video on your way out if you could. Subscribe if you haven't already. And hit that notification bell so you can be notified of when we're dropping our daily live content. Next time you'll hear from us, it's draft week. And that's Monday at 12 noon Eastern. So let's get it. I believe you will be solo that day. Things might change in the meantime. But maybe we'll look to have a potential guest. You and I will speak about that off the air. Good luck on Sunday. Have an awesome weekend.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We know you will.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'm hoping to have it all complete by tonight so I can have a day of rest tomorrow before, for those that don't know, I'm speaking at church on Easter Sunday. So that'll be fun. But should be good. And I hope you have a blast with Tori and your soon to be brother-in-law.
Yeah, it's cool. They got a great spot here, Tori and Francisco, and we got a full jam-packed weekend itinerary and going to be catching up with some people that I haven't seen in a long time that ended up in the Denver area and just following her itinerary to a T. Hey, Tori. Man, I don't know what I wanted to give her a chance to say hello, but hold on a second. Let me just make sure she's not here.
Yeah. By the way, Tori could also have a career in broadcasting or radio because she's got a great radio voice too. I've told her that.
You did tell her that, which I found that to be funny.
She's not there.
I think Francisco's calling her. Maybe we'll get both of you in here for a little.
We got another super chat. Let me pull it up. Man, I think my mouse is dead. That's not good. There's another super chat from Osmodius. Bobby will highlight it here in a second because my mouse is dead.
Francisco's on a Zoom call, so I definitely just ruined his meeting. Sorry about that. Oops. Creating havoc.
That's why she's not yelling back and being like, yeah, what up, dude?
I'm wreaking havoc over here, yeah. Let's see if they're texting. Oh, yeah. We just wanted to, sorry, did I? Oh, my gosh. Come on over and say hello before we close out the show. Hold on, let me go. Hold on, I'm just going to make it so that we can hear you both, Sarah.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on in. Come on. Yeah.
Chris, it's the rechargeable mouse. What's up, Tori?
Hi, Sarah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing? I hear it's snowing over there.
Yeah, I know. We got
Wait.
I don't think anything's sticking, but hold on. They're all.
Wait till you see-
I'm
wait till you guys see this.
multitasking right now.
Oh yes,
Look at these guys.
Francis, John, we got it. We got the whole family. TJ. No, we need his mom.
Look at Francis.
Are they saying anything? I
I
can't
don't
hear.
know. Hold on. Turn it up. There we go.
Put it by the mic, Bobby.
Hold on. Yeah, he's talking to you.
No, put it by the mic, Bobby.
I want to invite to the second annual Vault Summit, okay?
Who said that?
Hear that? Wait,
Whole trusted family. Whole trusted families invited
Bobby,
to the-
say it again. Or Dad, say it again.
I'm looking for an invite to the second annual Vault Summit, Sarah.
Oh, for sure. Hey, just so you know, I told Bobby you could come the first time because I knew you'd have FOMO for sure.
Did you hear that? And FOMO he did, but he never hit us back when we FaceTimed him.
We did. We tried to call you, Francis. You never picked up.
God.
Unbelievable.
Oh, that's great.
All right, TJ's at the command center right now at my studio because he's in Baltimore staying at my place with John and his girlfriend. They're all doing Easter together.
Okay.
So he's literally at my desk calling me. I'm at Tori's desk here in Denver.
Yeah.
So,
The musical chairs here, musical houses.
Wait, can you hear me, Sarah?
Yeah.
I'm worried that everyone's saying in the comments we have big foreheads.
they're all,
What?
look at them. They're all,
We have big Look at those hairlines or
my
something.
God.
it's the shape of the
I mean,
webcam. Look at this.
We do have widow peaks, but I didn't necessarily think my forehead was that big.
Listen, I tell people all the time, once you have an online presence, you learn to have tough skin because this is Bobby's family and they're not holding back. Doesn't matter about guests, doesn't matter if it's family. Like they just say what's on their mind. You get
Watching.
yes. And they always say, oh, Sarah's sticking to her guns. And it's like it doesn't sway me anymore. Like I've been doing this for too long.
And most of these people know, by the way, the ones that are going after our foreheads, that I'm coming right back at them, 10 toes down. All right. I'm coming right back at them one way or the other. Maybe not in this setting on the vault, but if they're doing that stuff over on my personal channel, it's going to get ugly quick.
Everyone's
my
saying we look
gosh.
alike too. Meanwhile, I brought Bobby to CrossFit this morning, and the
Couple cute girls there, by the way.
The owner of the gym was like, "I can't talk to Bobby without thinking I'm talking to you." Like she was like weirded out.
You guys do look a lot alike. And I just said before you came on, we can't hear it super well. We hear you more. I mean, we can hear your voice, but we can't hear the quality of it. Like I said, that you for sure could be a podcaster, broadcaster, radio, anything, because you got a great voice, a radio voice too.
I said that about you, Sarah, though. Yours is the elite one. You and Bobby both got the natural voices. So
Oh, Bobby.
Hey,
Bobby's
just
the
to-
elite.
Just to throw this out there, because I know everybody's wondering, a couple cute girls at CrossFit this morning. Just throwing that out there.
that's all he cares
And
about. They're all dating.
actually. Weirdly, we do care.
But the problem is Bobby likes to pick anyone that's either married or has a girlfriend. It's never someone that's single, which
He did the same thing when he was here in Columbus.
Yeah.
He did
Yeah.
the same thing.
Yeah.
And we talked about it at length. Just I've already told Bobby about it, but we talked about it at length here after he left town.
Let's see if I can actually successfully not put my geotag in the location of where I'm staying the next few days. I have not yet done it. It's still in St. Pete, which could be my
Okay.
future residence in the next couple months. But I have
Will be.
not placed my geotag here in Denver yet.
Okay, because it's family time. It's Easter
Yeah.
weekend. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Bobby likes to come places and like find anyone that he could reach out to that he knows that lives here, even if you haven't spoken to them in like 5 years.
The DMs are rolling
Hey,
right now.
let
Look at
me-
this.
Let me figure out who lives in Denver, even though I'm not really friends with them yet.
Kiss, kiss.
But-
DMs.
Aaron, Jesse Flex
So
gonna
I
be
don't know
here.
how much I'm going to see of Bobby is the real.
Well, and I would just say this, it depends on what your goals are, but you've been saying that your goals are to get married and find the one. But I'll just say one's in New York, Boston, Carolinas. They're all too far. Denver is way too far. So do not put your pin hinge in Denver. That's you can't overcome that.
Fair enough.
Way too far.
Oh man.
Good deal.
Good
All right.
to see you, Sarah. Bye.
Good to see you, Tori.
Yep.
Have a good weekend.
We'll be finishing up here shortly. Oh man, had to do that before.
The chat. Oh,
Why
the chat.
Hey, why not? I love how Tori was reading the chat like we do. You know, it's hard not to. It's hard.
There are times that I just, in order to keep a train of thought, I look away from it. I'll always come and revisit, but when I'm in the middle of speaking, I can't look at it. So
Yeah.
it also influences too much. Like I'll see people reading it live, and then all of a sudden people change their opinions, and it's like I'm not. Like if somebody makes a good point, I will definitely change my opinion based off of like new evidence or a good point or something I haven't thought of. But like name calling and all that, that's not going to change my opinion, which is what the vast majority of the chat is.
Yeah, I was gonna say this kind of reminds me of when we had Kelsey Conway on, and they were doing that whole back and forth with me and her, and they just overstepped the lines, like say what you want about me, but like I just let you guys in on my FaceTime impromptu with the family, and you're saying the same things about me that you are with them. Like, come on, it's just, and there's only a couple of them, but it's just like have a little bit of decency, you know? Like that's just not. It's not.
It's Bobby's sister, and like
not,
already,
like it makes me not want to be so forward facing
or open.
Like it's just not. And I felt awkward too with the Kelsey thing. Like that was just, it's just like you guys, like your comments can be seen by everybody.
Yeah.
Like you might be in a room you might be remote chilling today and not have to answer to anybody. And this chat means nothing to you, but it might mean something to somebody else. So I'll just leave it at that.
Which for some, that's the point.
And it's only a couple. Again, it's the vocal minority, and I get that. It's the vocal minority. And I have a good time with it on my personal and in here, right? But there's sometimes it's just like, all right, come on, let's draw a line.
Yeah, for sure.
With that, have an awesome weekend.
Same to you, sir. Happy Good Friday, happy Easter, all of that.
Look forward to it. Can't wait to hear everything how you crush it on Monday from Sunday. And for Sarah Ellison, I'm Bobby Trossett signing off from a great, active, entertaining Friday show. I believe we got all of our super chats in as well. No, we did not. Asmodeus is wishing you good luck on the way out.
Appreciate it.
Good stuff from Richard, a channel member of ours.
There's encouragement out there too.
Oh, of course. There always is. And that always trumps the other nonsense. Thanks, everybody. We'll catch up with you on Monday, if not before. And as always, thanks for spending some time with us here inside the Vault, Voltrons. Talk soon.